Sup nerds, I'm Wes.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Aaron.
We're Nevermore Gaming, and today we're going on a quest. An epic quest, but a tiny one. So Tiny Epic Quest is the fifth installment. So Tiny Epic Quest is the fifth installment in the Tiny Epic franchise by Gambling Games.
In Tiny Epic Quest, you're going to be moving around, trying to get in position to learn new spells. You're going to go to these grottos to help move you around even more, or advance other tracks on the board, or you could just get set up to go exploring into these caves, these like dungeons, or just fight off trolls.
Tiny Epic Quest basically has like two phases. One phase where you're moving around this board, kind of setting yourself up for the actions you're going to take in your night phase, which is where you roll dice and, try and get things accomplished. And the rolling of the dice mechanic is very similar to Tiny Epic Galaxies, with one big difference. The dice are shared a lot more. A lot of the things that we roll happen, and affect everybody on the table. And furthermore, there's no re-roll, so it's not like you roll and you say, I'm going to try and go for this, I'm going to try and go for that. You just roll, and that's what happened. There is a little bit of press your luck, because you can decide whether you want to continue to roll on subsequent turns or if you want to rest. But really, you just kind of drop those dice, and then stuff happens.
And it does have some of that interesting follow mechanic in the movement where first a player picks, this is how we're moving this round, and everyone moves that way, and the next player picks, okay, now we're moving this way this round. So it has that kind of following in it. We don't have to spend anything, but you're deciding what everyone is doing that way. And then like Tom said with the dice, where some are shared, some, I think it's really interesting with like the damage and the gain energy, that it's not shared, it's all right, there's three of them, so I take one, you take one, you take one. And the more they are, the farther around the table it goes. If you're playing with two players, it's just passed back and forth. Or the more players, you're going to get less damage. So it's kind of less risk in that. But because there's more people rolling, you have more rolls before it gets back to you. So there is more risk that way.
And to add to that, as the night gets later and later, and you're accumulating more and more magic, the monsters do more damage when they hit you. So like, if you keep pressing your luck, I'm going to keep going, you're getting into some dangerous territory where if a monster attacks you, you're going to take 3 damage, and you're not gaining any more energy, so it's a lot harder to block this stuff.
And what you're doing when you're rolling these dice is we're just, trying to all complete all these different things. We've got these temples that we're trying to go through, and the spells that we're trying to complete, and the goblins that we're trying to fight, and all the quests that we're trying to complete too. Those are just the 4 different ways that you can gain points. And while that's cool, there's just different avenues. He can take this strategy, I can take that strategy. But the way the scoring works is really interesting in that, the more of these quests I do, the more points they're worth. However, at the very beginning of that score track, they're actually negative. So if you completely negate, I'm not going to fight any goblins, you're going to take negative points. So you do have to diversify. However, it is really, the game does behoove you to just focus on one, because the way that the scoring kind of ramps up, and also you just, when you're really spread out, it's hard to try and advance 2 tracks at the same time or something like that,
So yeah, you actually do want to diversify some, and depending on what items you've unlocked and stuff, you may need to, like, if you're needing a lot of energy, you might need to advance your spell book so that you have more max energy, and then you might want to complete some quests that give you energy so that you've maxed your energy out, and now you can use that energy and spend it to do damage with your sword. So there's you need to spread out so that you can kind of make these combos work. But if you do just focus, you can max out a track and get the most points from that track.
And I think that really is where the open worldness of this game comes into play. It really is a game where you don't have a specific mission. There are 3 goals out there that you can complete. You do have your 3 different items on your card that you can complete. You can go fight goblins. You can go to these temples and get points that way. And I think that for a new player, that can almost be overwhelming, because if you say, all right, what's the point of this game? It's really just have the most points. Okay, how to get points? Well, there's 8 different ways you can get points on the board, and those even evolve a little bit as the game goes on. So that can be harder for, I think, a new player to grasp. But that's probably one of my favorite things about this game is that open world feel, where it's okay, what do I want to do? I can do whatever I want. I can go here and do this. I can try to get this quest card. Oh, well, this one says I have to have my people all on different shore cards. So I need to see, okay, well, these are all the shore cards available. Which one of those are going to benefit me the most and set me up to do other things in the future? Or maybe this turn I'm just going to say, screw it, I'm just going to get this thing and set myself up so that next round I can get those things. And I love that about this game, that there's just like kind of so much mental stuff going on in your head where you're like, okay, these are all my options. Which ones are going to work the best together for me right now, going on what I have and what I want.
Now, what I found with Tiny Epic Quest to make it the most different from the other ones in the Tiny Epic series is that this one has the least amount of player interaction, while your choices affect the other players more than in other ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which it's counterintuitive, but okay, there's no action that I would take where I'd battle Aaron or where I would block him specifically. Like, that's not really how the gameplay works. But since everything is shared when I go to make an action, I really do have to think about how my decisions are going to affect everyone else at the table. Like, in Galaxies, you can do the follow action, but you have to spend a currency to do so. So it's not, it's threatening, but it's not 100% going to be something that you think about when you go to make your decisions. And here I can say, well, I'm going to decide that we're going to move diagonally for this turn. And everybody does it. Just because that's most beneficial to me doesn't necessarily mean I should do it, because it could be even more beneficial to Aaron. So I could be like, ooh, I don't want to move diagonal because he's going to move there. Or I'm going to roll these dice and go, great, this doesn't help me, but it totally helps Aaron. And that's almost kind of the biggest blessing and curse. I mean, I like the fact that, when I make a decision, I do have to think about everybody else at the table. But when it comes to the dice, since I don't have any control over that, especially since I don't have any reroll, it does kind of suck when I roll a scroll when I was trying to get the torches. I'm like, oh great, I can't use that scroll, but Aaron can. And there's nothing I can do about it.
And I will say that for me personally, I didn't really see a lot of that, like especially in choosing movement of like, oh, I don't want to pick by Griffin because that's going to help Aaron more than me. Uh-huh. I really did, and then maybe that's some people do that and some people don't. Because the board's not that big, there's not that many different places you can go. So a lot of times, if I don't pick it, either someone else will, or I guess it could be if it's the last card you draw and you're trying to decide between two. But I did feel like that I would focus more on what helped me the most, not necessarily on trying to block other people.
I definitely did that.
Okay.
I would definitely look and be like, well, I would, especially if I'm picking between two different areas to go, I'm like, maybe I could send this guy here, maybe I can send him there. I'm like, well, in order to send him here, I'd have to go diagonally, and then Aaron can get to right there. I don't want to do, if Aaron's going to choose to go there and he's going to pick diagonally, that's his choice. But I'm not going to let my choice let him go there and then give him, and now it's his turn to choose an area, and he's going to go the direction he wants to go. Mm-hmm. And especially, it's circumstantial. It's when there are times when that decision is pertinent, but it's there. It really is there, and it effectively could be there every single turn. It may not affect your decision every single time, but that's always an option.
And I guess the other thing where I'd say it came into play the most for me is saying, ooh, I could go here, but if I did that, Aaron could also go there, and he's going to beat me to it. Or I could go here, but Tom's already there, and he's one step ahead of me. So before I was able to complete that, he'd probably complete it first.
Yeah, I agree. I have done that before where I see that somebody's one space away from getting to completing one of these quests. So I'm like, I'm not going to do this movement. I'll let them do it on their turn, because if I do it, they'll move there, and possibly on the next turn they'll complete another quest by moving. So yeah, I can see sometimes trying to, if you see that somebody's about to complete a quest, you're like, I'm not going to let them get in position for that.
The only other pseudo complaint I'm going to levy against this game is the same one that I have for pretty much every game in the Tiny Epic series, and that's it doesn't need to be tiny. Right? Okay, I understand that, the idea is you can travel with this game. Look, it all fits in a box this size. That's great. You can travel with this very easily. You can take this wherever you go. But really, the tininess kind of stops with this box size. Because look at this table. This is taking up most of the table. It's not like, ooh, when you're at a coffee shop, when you're at a tiny little table like this, you can still play this really epic game. It still takes up a lot of table space. These cards are regular size. These cards are regular size. Item meeples. Item meeples are really cool, but they're bigger than regular meeples. The only things that are tiny in this game are your player boards, where you have these tiny little tokens, right? That if you drop it on the ground, you're just going to lose it. It's going to be gone forever. There's no way I'm going to... I don't even know where it went. That doesn't need to be. If they made... look, if you like the fact that it's Tiny Epic, that's fine. If you like the fact that you can travel with it, if you like the fact that it takes up less space on your shelf, or whatever, that's cool. But if they made a second version that was Medium Epic Quest, Medium Epic Everything, please do that thing.
This is my copy of the game. You better find that. I do agree. I think that
Found it.
I think that the fact that this game is tiny was really done just so it could stay in the series. That they probably developed the game and said, okay, well, what can we shrink to make it fit in this box? And if I had a choice, if there was like a full-size version and the tiny version, yeah, I probably would choose a full-size version just because if I'm going to travel with games, I have like already like agreed with myself that, all right, I'm traveling with games. I need to make room for them. If I'm going to pack Deception and Spyfall in this game and Anachrony, like they're going to take up some space. Like when you're traveling with Anachrony,
Yeah.
and you're,
You know, like when you're at a coffee shop, you're like, "What? You have 15 minutes? Here, let me show you this game real quick. It's Anachrony."
Tiny Epic Anachrony.
Oh my god.
But the fact that it's tiny doesn't offend me like it offends Tom.
I'm not offended.
They actually did a really great job of like using like this card is the same size of all the other cards, and it's this is our spell books, and it keeps track of it. It has another track on here for the actual conjuring power, and on your board here where you're working on your legendary items and you're keeping track of your health and stuff, like it's all really well planned out, so it fits on here well. The only thing that I wish did fit on here was these tokens, like your max. I guess you could keep it on there.
Yeah, your max health and your max energy.
But I like to have it pointing at it, so it doesn't really work. You have to like overlap it, I guess.
I did feel a lot that card got bumped a lot, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's totally where it was.
Okay, and this card could get bumped. Because it's the items that are on here too, and those don't like sit flush. They flop around. Like all of this stuff is very like. I feel like I'm playing a really tiny claw machine game, trying to put it where it needs to go. Like it could very easily just okay. What was I at 6, 7, 5? Who cares?
So then they make a super.
I mean, that could happen in any game. Like you could
but
bump
not for like okay for like Champions of Midgard or something where you have the score tracker around. But yeah, I guess you're right.
And they did, I will say, make it so you can fit the whole game sleeved in the box. I don't know about the actual the big cards. I haven't sleeved those yet. I'm still waiting on my shipment of sleeves to come in. But I did sleeve all of the standard cards in Ultra Pro Matte Clear, by link in the description box, and they do fit in the box with everything else, even if it is a little bit tight.
Those are the best sleeves. They're the sleeve of choice for Neverboard Gaming. Ultra Pro, if you want to send us like a big case of those, that's totally cool.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
I really enjoy this game. Like, you have the sandbox feel where you can just move around and do whatever you want. You can focus on this strategy or that strategy, and it doesn't matter. You just kind of quest and do what you want. And there's no penalty except not doing a quest. So,
I feel dirty.
I couldn't focus. In every game that I've played, the scores are actually pretty close because the things that are the easiest to do actually score the least points. So, like, if you completely max out your spells and you get all 10 of them done, you only get 16 points. The harder things to do, like fighting a bunch of trolls, to kill 10 trolls, you get 35 points. But nobody ever does that. Nobody, like, unless they completely focus on that, but they're going to take a bunch of negative points because they're not ramping up their spells or something. And of course, the item meeples are awesome.
Oh my gosh, item meeples.
Like, putting items on here and unlocking these from quests, you're like, oh, sweet, I get this bomb, and now I get to blow things up. Like, that's pretty awesome. And I think that makes this game even awesomer. Like, if that's a word, like, you're like, okay, I'm going out questing and getting items, and now I get these items. You feel like Link, where you start the game with nothing, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go on a quest to get my sword, and now I'm on a quest to get my shield. Like, it's awesome.
I can't believe we haven't talked about item meeples yet.
Absolutely.
This whole pretty much like they're revolutionary for the board game industry. I really do think that moving forward, we're going to start seeing a lot more innovations with meeples instead of just changing their shape, like this, like being able to hold things. That's amazing, and how we haven't thought of this yet is beyond me. I will say that I definitely did have a blast with this game. I really did kind of like the fact that it has like the two different versions of the round, because I felt like, and I will say that I was kind of ignoring the first part a little bit. Sometimes I kind of focus on what I want to do with my dice and just get my meeples where I want them to go, and then like, we can move left. I'm like, I don't want to move left. Just get to the night phase so I can roll some scrolls and get these. And now, while that wasn't the best thing to do, that's definitely what I focused on. I just saying I liked, the dice aspect in the second half better than I did the moving around and stuff. But I definitely felt like this game, it was really kind of open world. You got to do a lot of different things, albeit a lot of them felt kind of similar, like advancing on a track and, fighting a monster. At the end of the day, they're the same thing. You're just trying to roll the same symbol enough times to complete the thing. I will still say that Galaxies is still my favorite Tiny Epic game. I mean, this one is really good. I like it a lot, but just there's still a lot of things that aren't fully under my control, and there's still a lot of things that I feel like, if you overlook like one small aspect, like if I didn't realize that Wes is, one move away from getting this quest card, and so was I. Like if I'm not paying attention to everything, things can kind of just like slip away from you real fast. I'm like, oh well, I guess I'm not gonna win this game now. It definitely, it's very interesting, very different and cool, and I like it a lot, but I still think Galaxies beats it out just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Stop. So I am going to join the large group of gamers who are saying that this game replaces Tiny Epic Galaxies as my favorite in the Tiny Epic series. The open world feel, love it. When I used to play video games, the open world ones like Morrowind, yeah, I played video games that long ago, are the ones like I would completely ignore the main quest and put like 100 hours into just like running through fields and picking berries and completing little side quests. Like, to me, I like that feel. I like being able to do whatever I want. I like not having the goal that we're all heading towards. I will say that because I tend to lean so far that way, that it's important for me to like keep an eye on the score track and remember, all right, I really like doing this, but you don't get that many points for it. Like in Above and Below, I'd always want to go adventuring and like in the underground caves, and I get to the end and be like, oh yeah, all these caves are empty and they're not worth any points. So even though I spent a whole lot of turns doing that and I heard a whole lot of stories and it was fun, it's not really worth anything in the end of the day. So keep an eye on that if you are like me and that's your favorite aspect of it. And like Tom was saying, like, oh, well, this person could be one step away from getting this quest card. I feel like it balances itself out in that, I could be going just to get that quest card, but I could be missing something else just because I'm trying to get this last meeple on a shore or in that diagonal line, and I'm not paying as much attention to where he actually ends up, where someone could be ignoring the positional ones and just going for fighting those goblins to get the 35 points. However, my biggest complaint about this game, and I guess I really shouldn't complain about it, is this little item rack. And it's cool, and it was like a stretch goal at the end of the Kickstarter campaign, and everyone was really excited about it. And like, yes, it looks cool to have all your items displayed, but we've played this game through not that many times, and even when I was just setting up the very first time and putting my items in here, it's already showing wear and tear. This really, I don't think it's going to last very long, and I probably won't use it anymore just because I'd rather keep it in better shape than use it for a few games and then have to just toss it because it's so ratty. I think this is a really cool idea. I just don't think it was that great when it was implemented.
So if anything you heard here sounds awesome and epic and you want it, click on the buy link in the description below.
And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored. To the quest!
To the quest! We usually have some drinks before, after, and oftentimes during our videos. My drink of choice is Bombay Sapphire Gin and Sprite.
I typically drink whiskey. Occasionally I put Coke in it.
And I usually go for Coke, and occasionally I put rum in it.